When you go to work each day, it's important that you approach the students, their identity, and their personal information through the lens of HIPAA. Just as a pair of sunglasses protects and shields your eyes from the sun, approaching work through HIPAA lenses means protecting and shielding student information from individuals and entities outside of Scenic View Academy that don't legally have a right to their information. It also ensures we are only viewing information that we need to do our job. In the following video segments, we will be discussing what HIPAA is and what it looks like at Scenic View Academy. What is HIPAA? The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, known as HIPAA, is federal legislation that addresses issues ranging from health insurance coverage to national standard identifiers for healthcare providers. The important parts for us are those that deal with protecting the privacy through confidentiality and security through safeguarding of health data, which HIPAA calls Protected Health Information, or PHI. What is PHI? PHI is any information transmitted or maintained in any medium, including demographic information that is created or received by Scenic View or someone we do business with, relates to or describes past, present, or future physical health or mental health conditions, past, present, or future payment for the provision of healthcare, and can be used to identify the student. Examples of PHI include names, address, city, county, and zip code, dates including date of birth, SVA admission, and SVA discharge, telephone and social security numbers, medical record numbers, account numbers, and health plan beneficiary, certificate/license numbers, email address, IP address, and web addresses, device identifiers and serial numbers, full face photographic and comparable images, any other unique identifying number, characteristic, or code. There are a few exceptions at Scenic View, as students are allowed to share their information. Examples include writing their name on a sign-up sheet, participating in awards, celebrating a birthday lunch with their name on the wall, signed releases such as video or photography release or a release of information. It also encompasses information the student has already released that does not include program-specific information. For example, if Uber Eats drops off food, we are okay to accept the item to give to the student. There are at least 5 types of data protected by HIPAA. They are written documentation and all paper records, photographic images, spoken and verbal information, including voicemail messages, electronic databases and any electronic information, including research information containing PHI stored on a computer, smartphone, memory card, USB drive, or other electronic device, audio and video recordings. When it comes to HIPAA, we follow the principle of minimum necessary standard. This means that when HIPAA permits the use or disclosure of PHI, a covered entity must use or disclose only the minimum necessary PHI required to accomplish the purpose of the use or disclosure. The only exceptions to the minimum necessary standard are those times when a covered entity is disclosing PHI for the following reasons: treatment, purposes for which an authorization is signed, disclosures required by law, sharing information with the student about themselves. Our students have key rights regarding HIPAA. The Notice of Health Information Practices outlines the students' following rights to restrict disclosure of PHI to a health plan if the student pays out of pocket in full for the healthcare item or service. Look at and obtain a copy of their physical or electronic records, or request that a copy of their record be sent to their attorney, insurance company, or a third party. Amend incorrect or misleading information in the record. Receive an accounting of disclosures of PHI. File a complaint. Be notified of a breach of PHI. We need to be mindful of any breach of confidentiality. Breach.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled training to emphasize the importance of avoiding avoidable breaches. We need to be mindful of any breach of confidentiality. A breach is defined as the unauthorized acquisition, access, use, or disclosure of unsecured PHI, which compromises the security or privacy of the information. What constitutes a breach? A breach could result from many activities. Accessing more information about a student than the minimum necessary to do one's job. Failing to log off when leaving a workstation. Unauthorized access to PHI. Sharing confidential information, including passwords. Having student-related conversations in public settings. Improper disposal of confidential materials in any form. Copying or removing PHI from the appropriate area. Why do breaches happen? Here are a few reasons. Pay attention to the ones you are most likely to be guilty of. Curiosity, such as wanting the latest scoop about a particular student. Laziness, such as using someone else's computer login because it's easier. Compassion, wanting to help someone who is seeking information. Greed or malicious intent, using information for personal gain. Carelessness, such as failing to follow protection protocols. Please remember the important role you play in avoiding breaches of information. Ask yourself, if this was my information, how would I want others to handle it? Thank you.
Protecting our students' information is vital. When accessing HIPAA information, please adhere to the following guidelines. Access to computer systems and information is based on your work duties and responsibilities. Access privileges are limited to only the minimum necessary information you need to do your work. Just because you can access an information system does not automatically mean that you are authorized to view or use all the data in that system. Only access what you need to access. Note that there is a digital footprint that tracks who access digital PHI. In other words, we know who is accessing various data on our systems. Different levels of access for personnel to PHI is intentional. Not everyone needs to know everything. If job duties change, clearance levels for access to PHI is re-evaluated. Access is eliminated if an employee is terminated. Accessing PHI, for which you are not cleared, or for which there is no job-related purpose, is unethical and will subject you to sanctions. Do not allow unauthorized persons into restricted areas where access to PHI could occur. Arrange computer screens so they are not visible to unauthorized persons and/or students. Use security screens in areas accessible to the public. Close files not in use and turn over paperwork containing PHI. Storage of PHI on unencrypted, removable devices, such as a disk, a DVD, a thumb drive, etc., is prohibited without prior authorization. Do not duplicate, transmit, or store PHI without appropriate authorization. Managing PHI on digital platforms is crucial. Your passwords are the gateway to a great deal of PHI. The following are Scenic View's guidelines and requirements. Do not allow co-workers to use your computer without first logging off your user account. Do not share passwords or reuse expired passwords. Use multi-factor authentication when possible. This is intended to verify that you are the user of any given Scenic View account and/or resource. Do not use passwords that can be easily guessed, such as dictionary words, a pet's name, birthday, etc. Do not write passwords down using any form of non-digital secured method. A password manager is acceptable only if it is protected by its own unique security. That is, a password with encryption. Passwords should be changed if you suspect someone else knows it. When it comes to setting passwords, the following conditions are required. Passwords should be a minimum of 8 characters long. Passwords require at least 3 out of the following 4 data types: uppercase, lowercase, numeric, and/or special characters. Passwords should be changed periodically. Scenic View requires password changes every 6 months. In conclusion, here are some overall safeguards to put in place to protect the student and to make sure you are staying HIPAA compliant. Email, internet use, fax, and telephones are to be used for business purposes only. Fax of PHI should only be done when the recipient can be reliably identified. Verify the fax number and recipient before transmitting. No PHI is permitted to leave the facility in any format without prior approval. If asked to photograph or video students, clear photos and videos from your personal devices after sending them to the appropriate parties. No PHI is permitted on any social networking sites other than those managed by Scenic View and only with student consent. Lock your computer whenever you step away from your desk. During work hours, place written materials in secure areas that are not in view or easily accessed by unauthorized persons. Do not leave materials containing PHI on desks or counters, in conference rooms, on fax machines/printers, or in public areas. Shred papers with student names or other PHI when you dispose of them. Use of other mobile devices and/or media for accessing and transporting PHI, such as smartphones, iPads, netbooks, thumb drives, CDs, DVDs, etc., presents a very high risk of exposure and requires appropriate authorization. Finally, never share student information with other students. If a student asks about something regarding another student, especially struggles that another student is having, or details of a disciplinary process, remember that it's not your place to share their personal information. Redirect them by saying simply, "That is not information I can share with you, but your concern is appreciated." Ultimately, when it comes to other students knowing information about their peers, it's not their right to know, and it's not your right to share. To emphasize the material shared here, please keep this statement from our Executive Director in mind. Talking about private matters regarding a student to someone not associated with Scenic View is unethical and unacceptable. This includes communicating private information within SVA with people who do not need to know it. Keep in mind that the information shared in this training is true for not only Scenic View Academy, but all human service agencies and professions. Organizations and individuals that are casual about these standards can be reprimanded by state licensing. Scenic View will investigate all breaches of the aforementioned HIPAA standards, which may result in disciplinary action. Thank you for following HIPAA guidelines and keeping students' information private, safe, and secure.
I feel like that sounded a little too abrasive. Can I do that take again?